Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Inside Track podcast. This is season 8. Who'd have thought that? And our first guest, Pete's been on before. I love Pete. So welcome to the podcast, Pete.
Morning, Ryan. Great to be with you again.
Oh, no, absolutely. Now, obviously, things have been changing for you over the last sort of year or so since we had you on, and you're back full-time now, TLR Fitness. How's things going?
Yeah, really good. I made a decision to really go all in with my work at TLR because the other roles I was doing, I was actually finding that the most impact I was having was when I was doing stuff that I do with TLR. And I was like, I've just got to focus on this and get it out to a wider audience, because that's where my passion lies, in terms of helping others gain some knowledge or insight, the same as it helped me from when I was going through a hard time. How can I help others experience that the same?
No, and I think that's it's probably a really good place to start, actually, Pete, because I mean, most people will know who you are if they've been around the industry a while, but I think it's really important to sort of understand how this came about, because obviously you've had some really big jobs. Let's be honest about it, and I think that sort of led to a few challenges that you had with either burnout, but I mean, you can explain what it was, but I think that's put you in a great place now to do what you're doing now. So if you don't mind, just to give an understanding of what happened and what brought you to where you're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't mind talking about it, because the more that people talk about it, the more it helps. And I love it when I've heard Steve Shaw and Jamie Cartwright and others in the industry actually being open and showing a bit of vulnerability. So for me, I was flying in my career. I was with Core Health and Fitness, one of the biggest global manufacturers in the world. I had a VP title of the whole of EMEA, really, really doing well from my perspective. But it got to a point where my body just said, enough's enough. You've taken me to the absolute limit. And I suffered what was the true category of corporate burnout, which you hear so much about at the moment, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. But in December the 13th, I know the date, 2019, I physically could not even get out of bed. I was destroyed. And it took medication, doctors looking at my cortisol levels were through the roof. And I ended up having to leave my career, leave my role. That actually turned out to be a gift, because I left my role in February 2020. 3 weeks later, COVID hit. And you know what happened to the industry then. But it gave me a chance to be away on garden leave, away on time. And I just thought, I need to understand how I got into this situation. I'm fit, I'm young, I'm healthy. How the hell did this happen to me?
Yeah.
So I went away and I looked at my behavior profiles, I looked at resilience training, and I really focused on developing myself. And I got to that point and I was like, okay, I'm off medication, I'm feeling good. How do I help others in advance, be proactive, see the signs, not just within themselves, but particularly what we do in TLR is look at the organizations themselves. And how can the organizations help the individuals that are working in that company to be more effective, achieve people's potential, make them personally fulfilled, all the things that when I look in hindsight, there was a lot of flags that I had. If I knew what I knew now, from all the accreditations and the studying, the work I do with teams now, I certainly wouldn't have been in that place in bed.
But the amazing thing is, I can imagine, and I can imagine you find this in a lot of the companies that you work with, it doesn't come up. So they see someone like you who's a high flyer, who's smashing it out of the park, whose career is just going in the right, and they just go, oh, Pete's all right. So it doesn't resonate in the company's mind. They're just going, oh, Pete's okay. He can do these 90 hours a week. He can fly here, fly there. It doesn't really matter. He's okay. And then suddenly, what Core have found out, obviously you've left. They've lost an amazing member of their team, and a really important part, because it wasn't identified early enough. And I can imagine you see so much of that in these businesses that you're going to support.
I mean, you can mask a lot of things, and I masked a lot of things from my wife, from my work colleagues, from everything. So it's easy to mask. I think one thing I understand now is my burnout, and a lot of people think burnout is from working too hard, long hours, just non-stop, limited sleep. Yes, that's a contributor. But for me, one of the biggest light bulb moments I had was when I discovered Working Genius, and I realized it wasn't the amount of work I was doing, it was the type of work I was doing.
Right.
And the type of work I was doing, what gives me energy is coming up with new ideas, sharing those ideas. So when I was out on the road and I was being able to communicate and help people solve solutions, I was on fire, and I could have done that with very limited sleep. But what happened is I went higher up the career into more executive level and senior leadership team. I got dragged into more of the implementation stuff, and that stuff just, I know from my profile, just drains me. So I was exhausted, and that's what led to burnout. And I think people understanding what actually gives them energy and how they thrive is a key element of understanding that.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we did I can remember doing a course with Marriott, and we were looking at sort of introverts and extroverts. And obviously it's not as detailed as the Working Genius stuff that you guys do. But even on that, they were like, you've got to understand how people take their energy. Some people take their energy from others.
Yeah.
Other people take their energy from within. And so if you permanently put someone in front of people all the time and they're an introvert, it's not that they can't communicate. It's not that they're not flamboyant, and that's not introvert or extrovert. It's how they take their energy. And if you're permanently putting someone in that environment, they need the out time, if that makes sense, to recover and rebuild their energy. My daughter's a classic example. My middle daughter, she will come home straight from school, straight in her bedroom, and sometimes she'll have a kip, but she needs her space to recharge from being around people all day. Now, she's not an introvert in terms of what people classically see as an introvert. Yeah. She's quite outgoing. She's great with people, but she needs that time. And if she doesn't get it, God, she's a grumpy ass. But she needs that to reset. And I guess it's the same as you talking about the Working Genius. If you can find what you're good at and you enjoy, that gives you energy. It's like me. I hate admin. I just do. Everyone knows I hate the admin side of it, and that just drains me like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I know, because I know your profile. and that's what we do when we work with organizations. A lot of companies are focused on the task that they've got to complete, because we talk about intangibles. That's what they can measure. They can measure the revenue and what the company actually does. But it's the individuals and team which actually are the bedrock of that organization. And the awareness of what makes the individuals tick and how they interact, as you said, some people are reflective, some people are more extrovert. Having that awareness of what makes the team up, how you're going to get the best of people, makes a huge difference to the performance and productivity of the company. So that will tick the box for the revenues and the profits and losses and everything that unfortunately most of the people are focusing too heavily on, but quite understandably. And yet the workforce and the employees and the people who are the most important aspect of the business are dropping either from physical stresses or leaving the company because they have lost the reason why they want to be there in the first place.
I can imagine it's really interesting when you sit with teams and work out and sort of go, actually, you've got a lot of finishes here, but you've got no. I mean, going back to the old completed finisher and plant and that sort of. Yeah. I can imagine you guys go in with your model and sort of go, okay, actually, you've got too many of this type, because what you've got a lot of deliverers, but you've not got the solutions, or you've got a lot of solutions, but you've not got the deliverers. And I can imagine that's quite a hard conversation to have with them, to sort of go, by understanding the individuals, you can actually make up your team to be the perfect team that you need.
Yeah, we do a lot of team. I was with a global recruitment company yesterday in a workshop, and I mapped their team, and I could say, look, there's a clearly heavy weighting towards one aspect of your work here. They were just about to hold, after my workshop, they were going to have a whole afternoon of strategy. And yet within their team, they had very limited people who were creative and could come up with ideas. So literally, while we were in the workshop, we were able to say, right, let's look at your meeting and let's make your meeting this afternoon as productive as possible, because at the moment you're going to struggle and people are going to leave the end of the day absolutely exhausted. That's not what you want from a team meeting. You want everyone to be able to contribute and feel like there's forward momentum.
Exactly. With a strategy meeting, you want them to come out and go, this is direction of the company, this is where we're going, we've made plans to take it forward.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects and so many nuances within each individual organization we work with, and that's why we have a number of tools that we use, be it Working Genius or CME profiling or Resilient Leaders Elements. We've got lots of different tools, and we will use the relevant tool to uncover what is actually the deeper lying symptoms that are causing some of the frustrations, the silo mentality that companies quite often mention, or why people are feeling like they're overwhelmed, and how can we make the organization and the individuals in that organization more resilient, because it's not just going to help them at work, it's going to help them in their personal life. It's a win-win for everyone. And
do you find that because obviously you're trying to work with the individual to make those changes to create the team, do you find that sometimes you go in there and there's the culture itself within the business is hindering that individual development that you look at? So you're almost going, actually, we need to scrap that culture to make all of this work.
Yeah, I mean, culture is a key aspect, and we concentrate a lot on the values of an organization and what is the true purpose of the organization. And if it starts at the top. Whenever we can, we do our best to work at the highest level of that organization, be it with the executive team, the senior leadership team, because at the end of the day, that's what cascades through the business.
Yeah.
And in the past, we've been asked to go in and do some leadership training for sort of the lower or middle tier of management. And we show them and they get insights, and we help them see what great leadership looks like. And it bites the company in the backside, because they're like, well, wait on, that's not what we're seeing up here. So if we can, we like to work from the top down, cascade, get the right language, get the right understanding. We compare any company like a company engine, and just like any engine, there's cogs which need to interlock and drive each other, and that's the teams in the organization. But you've got to have those cogs engaged.
Yeah.
And in TLR, we have something called the 4 C's, and it's clarity, communication, consistency, and collaboration. If you have those 4 C's, that brings everyone together. And as long as everyone knows the purpose and the cogs are engaged together, you can push that workforce and that company as hard as you want. They're able to, the engine's working smoothly. But the problem is that sometimes the purpose isn't known, or there's a bit of misalignment, the silo mentality, all that sort of stuff. But they're trying to push the organization too fast. And it's clunky, it causes stresses, it's not efficient. So we came up with the phrase of PACE. So purpose and cogs engaged. If you've got that as a business, you can go at a really good pace, and you can push the accelerator down, and everyone's able to cope, and they're able to be resilient to uncertainty that comes up and everything else. If your teams are not aligned, or they don't know what their purpose is, what the purpose is of the organization, you can't go to a healthy pace. It's not a healthy pace for you to be running at.
I can imagine, as daft as this sounds, I can imagine there's quite a few organizations out there, especially the bigger ones, that don't actually fully understand what their purpose is, because they've been in business so long that actually they're so focused on the bottom line. So profit. but they lose the track of to how they get there, and it almost becomes a automatic. This is what we do, instead of sort of going, actually, why are we in business? What are we trying to achieve here? Like, I can imagine you going to quite a few businesses like that, and you sort of go, actually, guys, we need to strip this right back and go, actually, why are you in business to start with?
Absolutely, and that's some work that I'm doing with an independent club right now. It's been around for years, and last year we spent 6 months with the team, understanding what do you believe is the true purpose of this health club. What is it that you're trying to achieve? And we ended up writing a whole playbook. We've written a playbook, and it outlines their mission, their values, what they stand for, what they're trying to achieve. And that now, this club's been around for, I don't know, 50, 60 years. But now it's got a true foundation that helps align everyone together, and they know the reasons why decisions are being made. They may not agree with some of the decisions, or they may want to do something differently, but they can see the roadmap that they're on now. And that just makes a huge difference to the success that they're going to gain.
And the thing is as well, once everybody can see the journey as to where they want to go, it's far easier to celebrate success. It's far easier to overcome any challenges that come up because everyone's bought into the same thing. Like you say, when you got silos, everyone's firefighting their own problems, but actually all those little fires are creating this huge problem at the top. And you're sort of going, guys, if we've got a common purpose, those fires get dampened really quickly.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I hear a lot is we're under so much pressure, we haven't got time to look at this right now. But a lot of companies don't work out the time that they spend reacting. They don't equate that as time. But the amount of wasted time from reacting as firefighting, as you were saying, is unbelievable, but it's never measured, it's never monitored. If they realize that by dedicating a percentage of that time over a 2 or 3 month period, it will make a long-standing difference to how much time they've got going forward. And that's where I jokingly say I'm a professional pacemaker. I am a professional pacemaker because I will come in and in TLR we come in and we use our assessment tools and we say, this is where you're at. This is the pace that you can comfortably go at. If you want to go faster, we need to do a bit of work, and we need to work on this bit, this bit, this bit. All this bit is really good, but there's a few little gaps. And if we can just tweak the engine a little bit and bring the cogs together, add a bit of lubrication, a bit of oil, then you can go fast.
Well, you only have to look at things like retention, clubs attrition. So if you take it down to the basics of that, people will go, I need to solve it because my attrition's too high. But you're actually going, guys, you need a plan in place, because it's not just about suddenly going, oh, we're going to speak to someone on the gym floor. There needs to be a plan in there, because there's so many factors that come around as to why these people are leaving, that actually it's probably, like you say, a 2 or 3 month plan to get everybody on board, to get everybody to buy in, to go, this is the new process. This is how we look after our members. This is, and it's just as simple things like, and I see this so many times, staff don't talk to members. Now, that quite often is a cultural thing, that they've got into this habit, but that's only one small part of a retention program. And so you have to have all the staff buying in. The cleaners need to be involved, the gym instructors, the managers. So how many managers do you know that hide in their office and don't come out and talk to the staff first off, but then the client? But it's not just a single easy fix. They just think, oh, that's a number. I don't know, it's 15%. That's my number. I'm going to tackle it. Yeah, but how do you do that? Because it's a whole cultural shift to suddenly get your staff talking to members and the communications to go out and trying to wow customers. That's a whole mindset change, and that doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen without training. It doesn't happen without bringing everybody together. And like you say, putting the cogs together, because how the reception team react can dictate the relationship a gym instructor has on the gym floor, and so it all flows around.
And I'd like to pick up on one key thing that you mentioned there, is that, and if ever I've spoken at Elevate and stuff, and my biggest bugbear is that Everyone's focusing about the members. Everyone's concerned about, are we doing the right thing for the members? Do the right thing for your company and your organization. Focus on that first. If you focus on that, I can guarantee your members are going to come into an environment that is a lot happier, a lot more positive, a lot more motivating. You will cure your retention problems without even looking at your retention figures. But everyone is focusing on B2C.
Yeah.
What are we doing for our customers? Oh, we've got to get better at this. And all they're doing is they're putting their staff under pressure because they're saying, we need to do this for the customer. What about who are me? I'm suffering in the organization. Help me. Help me, help the team, help the organization. That's my biggest bugbear, is we focus too much on customers. And yes, they're important, but let's get the company working right.
Marriott are brilliant at that, you know, Pete. When I worked for Marriott all that time, Bill Marriott's saying was, look after the staff, they'll look after the customers, and the customers will keep coming back. And that was his big thing. And there was huge focus, and probably more so abroad than it was in the UK. UK's got a strange culture sometimes. But in terms of the US, the staff really got looked after. And to the point, things like when they've had their hurricanes and stuff like that, Marriott is quite often the first business to go out and be on the streets and helping, opening their hotel up for, you know, it's like hospital centres and stuff like that. And it's done not out of a, oh, this is what we do. It's a cultural thing in that business that go, we help our community. That's what we do. And it's natural. So New Orleans, when they had that big hurricane, a lot of the hotels were used as sort of safety centres, and the staff donated huge amounts of their holiday time as money to the relief funds. And like I said, us in the UK, we're going, wow. But to them, it's like normal. That's what they do, because the company looks after them, and that's the culture that they've embedded into their business. It's just like, we look after our staff, and the staff look after the customers, and that then goes out to the wider community. And now they're looking after the community, and they're not doing it for PR. Obviously they get nice PR, but that's not why they do it. It's really not. It's just embedded into what they do as a company, and you just think, wow, that. We always looked on from the UK, because we used to have to force staff to go and help the community. It was like, what plans are we having for the community? But in the US and other places, it was just the norm. That's what they did.
And that's it. That's the buy-in of the true company values and the understanding of what the purpose is of the company. I heard a great story on a podcast once about a guy who was, I think he tarmacked driveways and brick driveways. And for whatever reason, there was a change in his shift. He stopped doing driveways and he went into rendering the front of properties instead, like a bit of a shift. And everyone said, but I thought you were a specialist in driveways. And he goes, no. The only reason why I set up this business was to take people who were unemployed and to give them a job and to get them some accommodation and help them in their first footing from either being homeless or whatever. That was the purpose of the company. The driveway and the rendering of houses, that was just a means to allow him to do that.
Wow.
It didn't matter what his company was about. For him, the purpose was, I'm going to help homeless people get a step on the ladder, get a job, and get accommodation. The end result of what they did wasn't actually the real driver of what he was doing as a business.
What an incredible! I heard a really good story that I was speaking to Steve Harrison, and he started working with a company, and they do a lot of stuff with adopted kids and stuff like that. And the whole business is designed around supporting kids struggling school and stuff like that. So they've got the business, and yes, that makes money and whatever. But the like you said there, the actual function of the business is very much around helping all these different people, you know, with behavioural or disabilities and whatever. And the business effectively just helps to pay for all their projects that they do out there. And you just think that is, absolutely commendable. And there's not enough people like that around. But you just think that's someone who knows their purpose.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing. Now, in terms of TLR, Pete, what's the difference between you guys working? Because obviously you work, like you say, you're working with a health club, you're working with some real big corporates. What's the big difference you find when you go into it? Is it the same process, or do you find working with a smaller company is vastly different to working with a big enterprise as such?
It's funny because we within our main company is called TLR Dynamics, and we have TLR Fitness, which obviously from my background in the fitness industry, kind of focused on that area. We have another sub company called Resilient Women Leaders that my wife runs with her partner Sky, and that's
that
about
looks amazing.
Helping women have more confidence in leadership roles and returning to work and that type of thing. And then we have Flying Start, which are for younger individuals, so sort of 18 to 25, 30, who are at the first step of their career, and helping them understand just because my parent was an accountant doesn't necessarily mean that if I understand who I am as a person, that I have to follow in that footstep. I may need to go in a different direction. So we work with many different demographics and different sectors. But for me and TLR, it's people are people. It's just sometimes a slower burn or a harder task when it's a much larger organization, because obviously it takes more time, and it's turning the tanker, isn't it? It takes more time to turn a big ship. So sometimes you can be very impactful with a smaller company, an SME, who can just make decisions quickly, and we're going to get you in and we're going to help you implement these, and what can we do to help? Whereas larger organizations, my Alex is over in America working with a pharmaceutical company at the minute. Those guys they're big, and they take a long time to crack into.
And I'd like to come back to this youth one, because I didn't realize you did stuff like that. Do you find, because obviously a lot of the younger generations get a bit of a kick in these days, don't they, from the older lot like us, the old Gen X's? Do you find that because of the way the culture's changed, that their mindset's different, or is it pretty much the same approach?
I think the things that they value, a lot of people are kind of realizing that yes, salary is important, and there's always that thing of, oh, why are they expecting such a big salary? But actually, when you break it down, a lot of it is about appreciation for what they bring to the table. And by looking at understanding the profiles and the strengths that some of the younger generation can bring to a business, it opens the eyes to companies as well, and saying, do you know what? In the past, you would start in this role, and you would do this role until you got to a certain competency, and then you would move here, move here, move here. Now, if that first role is not the skill set and the natural talent of that person, then they're going to leave, because or they'll just feel destroyed, and God, it's not what I thought it was going to be. But if that company just spent a little bit of time and realized, actually, you've got a talent that, as we were saying before, we may be missing somewhere else, and just because you're not experienced and you don't have a title, and there's a real opportunity to give them a chance and bring something to the organization that you may be missing.
I think the amazing thing is as well, Pete, because technology is moving so quickly, I think there's probably now more than ever an opportunity for the younger people to actually get up that ladder far quicker than, because they adapt to. I mean, my kids are 14, 15 and 19, and Jesus, the stuff they can do now, I can't ever imagine me doing at 15. You know what I mean? And you just think with all this, they pick it up so quickly. I think the old school days where you have to do your time before you move on just isn't there anymore. It's really, a lot of it's around how quickly you pick up the technology and can roll with it.
Yeah, and also I think there's this tendency to be harsh on the younger generation. We've got to take some responsibility ourselves. We've put barriers in place, the social medias and everything else that we've kind of put on to our younger generation that gives them extra stresses and does make their life more difficult. And they are spending more time on screens and not naturally networking with people face to face like we used to in our generation. So I think just that understanding is that the world is different for the younger generation, and why they will have certain ways of approaching it that is different. And I think just opening the conversation and having that awareness. I keep on saying the word awareness. Awareness is probably the biggest thing that we work on with companies initially, is just to open their eyes to what they've got, what they're missing, what's happening with their individual staff, what's happening with them as a company. But self-awareness is, I use a quote a lot in my presentation. Self-awareness is useless if you don't do anything with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes companies go to a certain, okay, great, we've done this workshop, we now know what's going, but then they don't actually then go and action it. So how do you make sure that, and one thing we're keen on in TLR is make sure that, okay, we've shown you the situation, how do we actually implement this and make the impact?
And how do you tend to do that with an organization? And so you've gone in there, you've done a workshop, you've worked out who's good at all of that. What's the next thing that you guys tend to work on with that company in terms of implementing that plan? Because does it involve sometimes changing people's roles? Does it involve the way they run their meetings, the way they deliver their product?
Yeah, I mean the insights that we create, it's now a case of, okay, and the company will make the best decision for themselves as well. We're kind of not a company that comes in and say, you need to run your company this way.
Yeah.
We kind of like highlight the areas, and then how do you think you could tackle this and bring it, and not lose the good things. Okay, it's not about just saying these are the bad things. Like, look at all the good things and the positive things that are happening in the business as well. And it's just a little bit of guidance and a little bit of hand-holding, and what can we do to provide support. But as soon as we know the people in the teams who are the right people, who will, okay, we can identify out of this team, there's 2 people that we think have got the skill set and the mindset that are going to actually bring this forward. So let's work with those 2, and they will bring the rest of the team with them. So by understanding what you've got within your team and your strengths, then utilize your strengths to help bring up the areas of development.
And in terms of the what you guys are focusing on most at the minute, where are you seeing the biggest challenges in business at the minute?
It's funny, obviously with all the national insurance and the budgets and stuff, we have our own challenges at the moment, because whenever budgets coming out, the first thing that goes is like training and development. It's like, training and development. No, we can't. And yet that's the most important thing to spend the money on, because it's going to be, there's uncertain times ahead. And if you can focus on making your staff more resilient to uncertainty that lies ahead of them and how to deal with that uncertainty, then you are going to be a stronger business. So for us at the minute, it's actually, our focus is helping organizations deal with uncertainty.
Well, I can imagine what you don't want to do is get into this environment where they're suddenly going, oh, sales are dropping, the economy's not great, we're going to have to start laying people off. At that point, it's a lot harder to make the team resilient and get them, because obviously at that point, the staff are all worried about their jobs. They're not in the right mindset then for you guys to come in and suddenly, oh, they are, I guess, but it's a lot harder job for you guys to take a team that's really worried about their jobs and the business. Whereas if they've done this development beforehand, they stroll into that with a lot of tools and ammunition to be able to tackle it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I love what I do is it's no different from being what I used to do as a fitness instructor. It's no different. As a fitness instructor, I would go in and I'd say, okay, what do you want to develop? Okay, I want to get my biceps bigger, or I want to work on my legs, or whatever. The thing is, I mean, we call it the Resilience Leadership Gym, because what we do is we look at the areas that you want to strengthen, and a lot of people think about get the wrong impression of resilience. It's just being able to just take hit after hit after hit after hit. That's not what it's about. It's about being able to look at areas where you will be challenged and work on them. Use your strengths in the resilient leaders elements. That's the key thing we do. We look at an individual strength and we're going to say, we're going to work on your strengths. We're going to use your strengths to help work on the areas that not that you're not good at, but you don't use very often, and the frequency. So you've got small biceps because you're not doing many bicep curls. So I'm just going to help you do some more bicep curls so your biceps get stronger. And resilience is exactly the same as a gym. That's why I think I relate so much to this type of work, because all I'm going in is when we go in, we use our tools and we say, you know what? You've got the biggest chest and the biggest ego, and your biceps are out here, but your poor little calves and your ankles are so weak that they're just going to give way. So let's do some leg work, and that will even everything out so that you can deal with the uncertainty that comes up. Because it's all very well having the biggest biceps, the biggest chest, the biggest back, but if your lower body can't support it.
I was going to say, if you're suddenly in need of doing a squat and you can't do it, it's game over, isn't it?
So I think that's why I associate so much with what I've done all the way through my career in fitness. This is now just a slightly different angle. Instead of looking at people's muscles, we're looking at their general behaviors, their general approach to certain things. Some people are very good at what they do, but they're not very good at understanding who they are as individuals, or vice versa. So let's look at what the makeup is of either an individual or as a team and work on those areas. But you've got so much strength, and we can correlate what you're strong at will help you work on the areas that you're slightly weaker at.
Isn't it amazing though that I mean, even myself, I'm 48. And I probably don't fully understand me as much as I probably think I do. And I can imagine you going to a lot of companies to start working with people, and actually because people put on a face, don't they, quite often, depending on who they're speaking to and the role they're doing, you can change your personality to suit. And I can imagine a lot of people in business almost lie to themselves in a strange way to deliver the role that they're in. And I can imagine that's quite difficult when you go in, because you've got this person who's got this persona, but actually they're this. And if we can get them to understand that a lot better, they actually get a lot stronger at the role.
Yeah, and also once they understand themselves and they understand the others around them, they can lean on the support of the other people.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that I shared the profiles with the team I was working yesterday. And one guy had a key strength, but he had an area that just frustrates him and just drains his energy. But he said, I do that because I'm the leader. I was like, but it's draining you. And there's so many other people in your team that will probably be able to do that.
And enjoy it.
And enjoy it. It's like you're giving them a gift. They're like, do you mind doing this for me? Oh my God, I would love to do that rather than this other stuff you've got me doing. But I think there's so many, this perception of resilience is just, I've got to keep on going. I'm the leader. I have to be the one. I can't be vulnerable. I can't. All that is, it just escalates into creating a false sense of the true environment. And sometimes it's just about opening the barriers and supporting each other as a team. And then I
think it's hard for some managers, though, isn't it, to understand that because they've got their management role, that they're responsible. So they're almost going, well, I need to make the decisions. And I think I've been in a number of teams and run a number of teams. And when you start relinquishing that power a little bit, give people an opportunity to flourish in what they're great at, as a manager, it takes so much pressure off you. You almost sit there and go, right, what am I doing today? Because everybody's doing the stuff that they're good at, because you've allowed that to happen. But I think some managers, they go, because I'm the manager, I have to take the responsibility for everything, and it's not really how it should work.
Yeah, I mean, I look back in hindsight at myself as a leader, and I made some clanging mistakes, and I know now where it all comes from. Like, I understand myself so well that I understand where it came from. So for me, my father died when I was 2 years old. And back in those days, there's no grief counseling. And it was just hide your emotions, just keep on going. But for me, it was about, I've got to take control of the environment. I've got to help look after my mum and everything. So as a kid, that helped me. That helped me get through my childhood. And a lot of the stuff of how we behave now can relate to your childhood. And so for me, what was a strength and was great for my childhood, you then generally in adulthood, you think, well, it worked in childhood, I'll do the same. So as a leader, I know that I was quite controlling, but I was probably over controlling. And I didn't give my team the opportunity to take some of the work on or trust them. It's like, I've got to control it, because if I control it, nothing can go wrong.
Yeah.
And this just came into my mind. It was funny. One day I came into the office in the conference room, and I'd been away with work, and my team said, oh, we've got a gift for you. And they gave me a T-shirt, and it had, let me get this right, hashtag WWPWD. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? And they said, what would Peter Webb do? And they said, we came up with that phrase that rather than relying on you, we would ask ourselves, what would Peter Webb do? Now, for me at that time, oh my God, that's it. That's a huge ego boost. It's like, wow, my team were like, what would Peter Webb do? I've got a T-shirt. It's the worst leadership trait to have. It's like, it's not what Peter Webb would do. It's what do you do? And how do I develop you to be able to make your own decisions and that? And I look back on that now and I was like, that was a massive opportunity I missed. Like, how did I not do that? But I've never had any leadership training. Like, I got through where I did because I was good at what I did and I got results and everything else. But people didn't really invest in leadership training. I didn't get any of the stuff that I now know from self-taught and accreditations and everything else. So that's why I'm passionate about going in and going, look, guys, just invest in your people and they will learn and develop. And you don't have this manager that feels like they have to take everything on and do everything themselves and put themselves under pressure and everything else. It's not needed.
I think it's one of the big things that we find, especially in fitness at the minute, because of the way staffing and the models have gone and stuff like that. Not only did they not get the leadership training, but they don't even get the opportunities to build up their careers. I can remember when we were going through ours, you started as a gym instructor, then potentially PT, duty manager, sales, assistant manager, and so on. That for a lot of businesses, that doesn't exist anymore. And so you almost take a PT straight into a manager role. And so they've not even had the experience, and now you're asking them to be a manager as well. And I think training like yours, I think, is so valuable because they're missing so many steps along the way to these management roles. It just seems daft not to go, okay, actually, yes, we have to accept that they're probably going to miss that experience, but let's bring someone like Pete in because it's going to give us that understanding of how to build a team. Because you see it all the time, and they're not poor managers. They're not poor people, but they're just not great managers because they haven't had the training or the experience or, you know what I mean, to learn the skills that they need to learn. And I think there's so many more companies that, whether they're small or big, I always used to call it with the independents. I did a talk at the independent gyms for about a God complex. And what I was trying to say was a lot of gym owners, especially independents, because they own the business as well as manage it and everything, there's almost that it's me. My staff just do whatever, but it's me. I make all this. And you just got to break that down and go out. You've got a team, guys. Use that team. You've got too much to do. You can't do sales, operations, the whole shebang. You need to rely on your team. And I always used to call it the God complex, just someone who's got the ego to go, this is mine, only I can do it. And you're just like, you're so wrong because you're not the only one that can do it. And I also like the naivety that comes with new staff and young staff, because they haven't been battered from pillar to post like we probably have in our careers. They don't know what's right and wrong, what's failed, what hasn't. And quite often they'll come up with the best ideas and the best solutions.
But I think one thing that we are guilty of as an industry is we rely too much on the passion. So we bring someone in who's so passionate and has always want to work in the fitness industry, and they will put up with a lot of poor practice because they're just so passionate at what they do. And I think I see it so much. We kill people's passion, and we're losing people from the fitness industry because we're not allowing them to actually really thrive in what should be a industry where, as I said before, we do it for our members. We look at our members and say, we're going to make you stronger, we're going to make you fitter, we're going to make you this, and this. But when we look at an employee that we bring in, it's like, you will put up with a lot of crap that we give you because you're passionate. And it just is soul destroying to see so many passionate people leave our industry because of the way we actually operate within the industry. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there's stuff that is happening. I heard Sophie Lawler on the Love's Team, Love Your Career podcast, and she's doing some great stuff in total fitness, and John Oxley. And there's great stuff happening, but I think just not to the volume that if we want to be seen as leaders in not just fitness, but especially now everyone's getting into mind wellness and all that aspect, we can't be hypocritical. We've got to do it for ourselves as organizations that deliver that service. And not just within clubs, but obviously with my background, the suppliers of that industry, suppliers, I think, are probably one of the world's worst because they deal with the pressures that, from my life as a supplier, it's like the health clubs put a lot of pressure. They'll move dates. They'll ask a lot of the suppliers, and the pressure is on the suppliers. And the suppliers, I don't think, do enough to help themselves and look after themselves either.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But and I think we go back right to the start and sort of go, well, okay, if you look after the key people in your business, well, everybody in your business, but if you're looking after the staff, which are our key assets, because I think a lot of these clubs, they'll spend loads of money on new kit. The amount of people that I'll speak to and they go, I've just bought another piece of kit for $5,000. And you're like going, but what does that add to your club? What actually, does it drive any more members because you've added that? I can guarantee you, if you trained your staff and gave them the tools and that'll drive far more members, reduce your attrition, all those things far more than the $5,000 you just spent on that piece of kit. So when you're going to rethink about how we're going to move this business forward, someone doesn't care that you bought a new leg press. They really don't. And I'm a big believer in that in sales. People don't join a gym because it looks snazzy. They do it because they want to achieve something. And so if you've got everything in place with your staff and the member journey and everything, that's what will keep the members. And the excitement when they come into the club and they've got this really enthusiastic member of staff who knows their stuff, they know how, and they're just on the ball because they know the journey, they know where they're going to go. That's what gets someone to join, not the fact that you've got this beautiful leg press or a nice $15,000 treadmill or whatever. It just doesn't. It helps, obviously, that your club looks nice, but that's not what encourages people to join. But like you say, the asset in all these businesses is the staff. And I think far too often we miss out on that opportunity to.
I remember from my health club membership sales, it was like needs analysis. Do a needs analysis. What was the needs analysis that you last did on your staff?
Yeah.
What are the needs of your staff? Do a needs analysis.
But how many people actually do performance reviews, but do them properly? Quite often you'll see they'll do performance reviews, and the performance reviews are a bollocking. You haven't done this. You haven't done this. You haven't done this. You're not good at this. When in actual fact, that person, whether they're a good member of staff or bad, should believe in that with either a plan of action to improve, but they should be leaving with confidence and positivity to sort of go, actually, this is what I need to get to my next career move. But quite often they're not done. They're done once a year. They're done because they've been told they need to do it. And then it's almost like going, right, back in March last year, you did this. Really? Well, surely we should have had those one-to-ones. And I just don't think we've got it right as developing the teams. And I think more people should look at organisations like yours, Pete, and go, actually, instead of investing that $5-10 grand in that, let's get the staff absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, Yeah, and it said it goes back to the whole purpose thing. Is like, what is the purpose? What do I bring to the team? What does the team then bring to the business? And what does that then allow the business to do? It allows the business to achieve what its goals are, and it all goes up the other way as much as it goes down the other way.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really, really good place to end it. Other than in terms of if somebody was going to look at their team and go, okay, I'm not necessarily going to look at Pete right now, what would you say 2 or 3 things that they could instantly look at to go, well, okay, we can start moving this team forward a bit? Quite hard, I know, because you guys do a lot of work to understand the business.
Yeah, I mean, what they could do is, we mentioned it before, is take the time. Take the time. Just step back and don't think about the pressures of we've got to achieve this, we've got to achieve that. I think the first thing is just take what I'm saying about pace. Look at the pace you're going at, and is this healthy? Is it working for you? If it isn't working for you, slow down.
Yeah.
Until you can get to a pace that everyone is happy to go at. So I think the biggest thing is just take some time to step back, speak to the staff, listen so they feel heard, and understand it from their perspective. And you will glean a lot of information. I mean, yes, our profiles and our assessments that we do will get straight to the key points and we can nip it, but just by having conversations and listening. And my final point will probably be show some vulnerability and say, do you know what? I don't think we're doing things right now. And we'd love to hear from you how you think we could do better. What could we do for you today? When are you at your best? And what is hindering you from being at your best right now? 2 questions. And I want your honest answer. There's no repercussions. I just want your honest answer. Tell me those 2 things, and you'll get a lot of feedback.
Cool. Now, just one final point before you go, Pete. In terms of what's next for you guys, what's on the horizon? Because I know you're always looking at training and stuff for yourself. So you guys are always doing new projects. So what's on the horizon for you guys?
We're working a little bit on we're at this balance point of we love to do stuff face to face, but we're also on the understanding that we need to be able to scale what we do, because we're working, as you said, with some quite large companies. So at the minute we're looking at LMS systems and online training,
cool.
not to replicate the stuff that we do face to face, because there's benefits of both. But it's just how can we get our message out on a larger scale and give people the freedom to do it at the time that they want. But there's only certain aspects that we would rely for online to do that. There's certain aspects where face-to-face is an absolute must, and we don't want to lose.
No, I can imagine there's certain things in terms of what you do that you really need to be having those interactions and those conversations. You can't really just sort of read something or watch a video to get that benefit.
Yeah, so that's it, and really, it's exciting. It's exciting to see. I think now that I'm a full director of TLR Dynamics, whereas before I kind of was juggling a few things, that we've got a good focus of where we can make the most impact and how we can make the most impact. Because that's our passion, and that's what we want to achieve.
Yeah, well, I've never known somebody other than Glenda that's so fit to do what you do, if you know what I mean. I think you have your calling, and this is it. I think you really do fit into exactly what you're delivering, because the great thing is you come from an experience of having gone through that bad time, and you come out with it, and now you've got the solutions to help. So I think you're in a great place to help companies, one from an empathy point of view, because you can go, I've been there. I've done all that, but also you've got incredible knowledge, Pete. I always love talking to you about this, because you've just got so much knowledge about how these things can happen, the mindset of people, and stuff like that. Now, you quite often go on and do quite a few talks at the likes of Elevator, stuff like that. Is there anywhere people can go and watch you? this year?
There's nothing scheduled at the minute because I was waiting to see what is happening. But I'm actually, funny enough, I'm actually doing a webinar on. I can't remember the date. Maybe I can give you. You can drop it in the notes.
Absolutely, we'll drop it. We'll drop it so people can see it.
I'm doing a webinar in the next couple of weeks with Anna Hebbings, who's a double Olympic champion, 9 times world champion.
Wow.
And that's about high performance, and also Chris Dannon, and so some really, really cool people on the panel about high performance and winning through uncertainty. So that's my next thing is a webinar series. It's free to join for an hour. Great discussions. So perhaps we pop that link into the notes.
Absolutely. If anybody wants to jump on that, the link will be after the podcast. We'll also make sure that when Pete announces it on LinkedIn and that, we'll push that out for you, Pete. I love listening to people that have been to the very top of sport, because quite often you think, oh, they just got there, they're just talented, and then you hear their stories and they're so far from it when you listen to how they've come through, and the hard work and the graft and the challenges they've faced and the mental aspects of it. I think, you look at Chris Hoy and all those, and none of them go, it was easy. Not one of them that are world champions or Olympic champions, or none of them say it's easy, and they tell you all about their journey. And I think it's fascinating, because what it does is it makes you realize, actually, they're normal people that have just worked damn hard. They've had the right support in the right places, and they've just gone, that's my focus and that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And I think everybody can learn from those people.
Well, this webinar is it's 6 webinars for celebrating 25 years of Resilient Leaders Elements, which is the key framework that we use. So lots of different topics. So if they like the first one, then there's a whole series of free webinars to attend. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll get those details out. And as always, Pete, I've loved every minute of it. It's absolutely flown by. It always does for you. Now, if anyone wants to get in touch with Pete, either just to discuss things or to have a look at bring them into your organisation, obviously all the details are on the podcast. You can't miss Pete on LinkedIn. He's everywhere when it comes to resilience training and that sort of stuff. So absolutely get in touch with Pete. But I loved having you on, Pete. Thanks for kicking off season 8. And I'm sure we'll have you on again, probably in a couple of series. Can't have you every series, so we'll bring you back for number 10.
Okay, brilliant. It's been a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Ryan.
No worries. See you soon, Pete.
Okay, cheers. Bye-bye.